DRS will forever be a sore point for some fans of Formula 1. These are the best drivers in the world, right? Why do they need DRS to help overtake? Of course, I am playing devil's advocate. The amount of non-DRS overtakes in a race is shockingly low, and without it, a lot of the excitement of race day could disappear. Nonetheless, drivers and fans would love to see the sport function without it, and in response to the constant calls for change, the FIA have responded. Today we'll fill you in on the FIA's latest update regarding the removal of DRS, as well as how Alex Albon gave the middle finger to everyone trying to overtake him with DRS at the Canadian Grand Prix. So, don't go anywhere. The drag reduction system, or DRS, is a controversial driver-controlled device aimed at aiding overtaking and increasing the chances of wheel-to-wheel racing in Formula 1. The system, which involves the driver opening a flap in their rear wing to reduce drag levels and gain top speed when running within a second of a car in front, was introduced back in 2011. But as it did when it was first adopted over a decade ago, DRS continues to be a source of contention among F1 competitors and fans. So why is DRS used in F1? DRS is primarily an overtaking aid. It was introduced in 2011 to make overtaking easier. It allows drivers to increase straight-line speed by dumping rear wing drag through a slot that can be opened when a car is running within 1 second of the car in front. Drivers can also use the system on practice and qualifying laps, even when running alone on track. The device is often criticised because by pressing a button to gain a speed boost, drivers are artificially able to gain time on rivals ahead. Therefore, it is often claimed that this takes away from the skill of pulling off a challenging overtaking manoeuvre. Juan Pablo Montoya, the former F1 driver and double Indianapolis 500 winner, famed for his combative passes in the era that predated DRS, compared the device to giving Picasso Photoshop. But DRS is not a simple overtake button that automatically means getting past the car in front, as we saw with Albon in Canada. While there have been plenty of occasions where its power has been deemed to be too great, and so passes have occurred well before braking zones on straights, the tool is generally aimed at assisting overtaking when drivers would otherwise be stuck in dirty, turbulent air, which stops them getting close enough in the corners to overtake. However, as the latest generation of F1 cars have been designed to allow drivers to follow more closely with a reduced dirty air effect, many people had hoped this would lead to DRS being dropped. While the racing is definitely closer, the dirty air effect is still there, making it harder to closely follow a car in front. There are other issues stopping DRS from being removed. Back in the pre-DRS era, the difference in engine power or car performances were far greater, meaning you could make the use of an advantage over your opponent. Perhaps you had a much greater top speed, so you could get them on a straight. Or maybe you were far faster through the corners, so you could get a pass done there. Now though, as the sport has become more technologically advanced and teams spend incredible amounts of money, the performance gaps between the cars are far smaller. While some cars are still better on the straights and some are better on the corners, the magnitude of that performance difference is far smaller. So even with the cars being able to race closer together, DRS is still needed to make the majority of passes happen. Not all of them, just the majority. Four-time Formula 1 world champion Sebastian Vettel, who drove in the pre-DRS era, has been a vocal critic of the system, including last year when he suggested cars can now only overtake while using DRS. The interesting bit would be to take the DRS off and see how the racing really is, and if you're able to overtake a lot better than, let's say, in the past, Vettel said. I'm only a bit cautious for the DRS, because it was brought in as an assistant to help overtaking, but now it feels a bit like it's the only thing that allows you to overtake at times. But it appears that the system is not disappearing anytime soon, as the FIA's single-seater director, Nicolas Tombazis, said to do so would be a great risk for the sport. In an ideal world, it is conceivable to remove DRS, but in the short term it will not happen, because otherwise overtaking would be very difficult, the Greek engineer said. We're no longer in the 80s, where simulations were not so advanced and the differences between one car and the next were great. With the current level of technology, of science, removing the DRS would be a risk for the sport. Removing DRS with the sport in its current state would be a risk, and you would take a lot of the excitement out of race day, with much fewer passes happening. For now, DRS is 100% here to stay. But that doesn't mean that the sport can't be changed to allow for the removal of DRS. In fact, changes are in the works that could lead to DRS being changed or completely removed in the next few years. The next big change coming to Formula 1 will be in 2026. There'll be some new teams and engine suppliers, probably more teams than there are at the moment. There will likely be a load of new regulations for the car design as well, but most importantly will be the changes to the engine regulations. The electrical capacity of the engines is increasing to 350 kilowatts from 120 kilowatts, giving drivers a huge boost of engine power when they want it. If you've seen much Formula E, or any for that matter, you'll know what a big boost of electrical power at the right moment can mean to a driver. Being able to inject that extra pace from your battery will help drivers overtake. Sure, it'll basically be doing the same thing DRS does at the moment, but you'll be able to deploy that power whenever you want, and the driver you're trying to overtake could have it as well. This puts the agency back in the driver's hands, making it more of a skill-based system. We don't know anything about the changes to the design regulations yet, but there will be plenty and they will be designed to help the cars race closer together, in theory aiding overtaking even more. So change is coming, and DRS could be going. But while DRS can be pressed to win, it doesn't always work that simply. Alex Albon was one of the standout performers at the Canadian Grand Prix, setting the fastest time of all in the Q2 qualifying segment, before racing from 9th on the grid to P7 at the checkered flag, which is not only Williams' best result of the year, but their best finish since George Russell scored second place in the rain-affected 2021 Belgian Grand Prix, which I don't count as an actual result as no racing happened. Albon made a one-stop strategy work perfectly, gaining track position by doing one less stop than the cars around him and nursing a set of hard tyres for 58 laps, all the while keeping a number of faster cars behind him, despite them having DRS. But I thought DRS was an easy win button, I hear you say. Okay, you probably didn't just say that, but I'll tell you why DRS didn't matter here anyway. He used the Williams car's characteristics to maintain his position ahead of a car which was technically faster, the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. Ocon ended up behind Albon after his first stop. Alpine obviously thought that Esteban would be able to make the move at some point and carry on up the field, but that never happened. While Ocon had stronger pace in the earlier parts of the second stint, it was short-lived. The pace started to fall away from lap 30 onwards, a contrast to Albon, whose slow and steady approach was starting to pay dividends. When the Alpine pitted again, fresh tyres should have handed the advantage back to Ocon, but instead of Ocon's pace improving, it stagnated and then converged with Albon's, even falling behind in the very closing stages of the race. So how was the Williams able to hold on to position on old tyres with the threat of DRS from the Alpine? Williams had a new upgrade package on Alex's car in Montreal, which featured a very low downforce setup. Low downforce means low drag, which means high top speed, something that can be very useful around a track like Circuit Gilles Villeneuve with its long straights. The Alpine, on the other hand, though capable of putting in a faster lap on a clear track than the Williams, has a slower top speed. When both had DRS open, Albon was able to go over 340 km an hour, while Ocon only managed 320. Without DRS, Alex was averaging around 310 km an hour, only 10 slower than Ocon with DRS. That is still an advantage to Ocon though, but not a big enough one, even with Alex on much older tyres. Albon's solid tyre management meant that his exit speeds out of the hairpin before the final straight were not compromised, meaning that even with such long second stint, he could still lay down the necessary traction to build a competitive top speed relative to Ocon. These crucial elements are what helped Albon cement himself as the best of the rest and earn the Driver of the Day award in Canada. What did you think of Alex's performance in Canada? And what do you think of DRS? Will it go with the new regulations, or is it here to stay forever? Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.